Hello and welcome. This is Notibot ENG. Tonight, we bring you the latest news from around the world. In a significant development, the U.S. says 13 ships have turned around rather than risk being trapped in the Strait of Hormuz amid a heightened naval blockade. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is holding a press conference to address the escalating tensions with Iran. We'll also be covering the latest on the Ukraine-Russia war, where President Zelensky has described Vladimir Putin as a global threat, and what's behind China's surprise economic growth. A new development in the escalating tensions between the U.S. and China has emerged, as Washington reveals the latest on its naval response to the blockade. Good evening, I'm your name, and this is a recap of the latest news from around the world. The United States has said that 13 ships have turned around rather than testing a naval blockade on Iranian-linked ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz. The move comes as the U.S. attempts to pressure Iran into accepting a long-term ceasefire in the region. The ships, which were reportedly of Iranian origin, were intercepted by the U.S. Navy in the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway that connects the Gulf to the rest of the world. The U.S. has imposed a maritime ban on Iranian-linked vessels, which aims to prevent them from exporting oil and undermining the international sanctions regime. According to a top Pentagon official who spoke to Bloomberg Politics, the 13 ships that turned around were vessels that were previously denied passage through the strait due to a lack of valid insurance. The official stated that the U.S. would continue to work with its international partners to enforce the maritime ban and prevent Iranian-linked vessels from using the strait. The move is seen as a significant escalation of the U.S. efforts to pressure Iran into accepting a long-term ceasefire. The U.S. has been concerned about Iran's growing military capabilities and its support for proxy groups in the region. The blockade is part of a broader strategy aimed at curbing Iran's ability to export oil and undermine its economy. We now take a look back at a tense moment from earlier today when U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth addressed the media on the Iran situation. The United States has announced plans to blockade Iranian ports, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth vowing that the measure will be in place as long as it takes for Tehran to make a deal. This move comes after a series of escalating tensions between the U.S. and Iran, which have seen several drone attacks on U.S. military personnel and facilities. According to Hegseth, the blockade will target Iran's ability to transport goods and resources, making it difficult for the country to sustain its economy. If Iran chooses poorly, then they will have a blockade and bombs dropping on infrastructure, power, and energy, he warned. This statement suggests that the U.S. is prepared to take a hardline stance against Iran, which could have significant consequences for the region. The situation is complex, with the U.S. and Iran having a history of conflict dating back to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Tensions have been rising in recent years, particularly since the U.S. withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. The Iran nuclear deal, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA), was a landmark agreement aimed at preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons. The current crisis has seen several major power players, including the U.S., Iran, and European allies, taking sides. Russia and China have expressed support for Iran, while the U.S. has imposed sanctions on the country in an effort to curb its nuclear program. The situation remains fluid, with the U.S. warning that any sign of Iranian aggression will be met with force. As tensions escalate between Ukraine and Russia, the international community is left reeling from a devastating surge in deadly strikes. In a stark warning to the international community, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has labeled Russian President Vladimir Putin a truly global threat, following a devastating wave of drone and missile strikes that left at least 16 people dead. The attack, which occurred just hours after Putin's forces hit Ukraine with over 380 drones and missiles, has raised concerns about the escalating conflict and its far-reaching implications. The strikes targeted Ukrainian cities, including Mykolaiv and Kherson, leaving them without power. 4 people were killed in the capital, Kyiv, while 7 people died in Odessa and 2 in Dnipro, where residential buildings were set ablaze. The attack has highlighted the ongoing brutality of the conflict and the devastating impact it is having on civilians. Zelensky's comments, made while accepting the International 4 Freedoms Award in the Netherlands, underscore the gravity of the situation. He likened Putin to Nazi leaders and warned that Russia's expansionist ambitions pose a global threat. The Ukrainian president's pleas for economic pressure on Russia and swift delivery of promised assistance to Ukraine have been echoed by Kyiv's allies, who are increasingly concerned about the humanitarian crisis unfolding in Ukraine. As the conflict rages on, the international community is grappling with the question of how to respond to Russia's actions. Zelensky's words serve as a stark reminder of the stakes at play and the need for collective action to address the crisis. With the situation on the ground continuing to deteriorate, it remains to be seen how the international community will respond to Russia's aggression. According to recent statements, Beijing has reportedly assured Washington that its military aid to Tehran will cease during a proposed ceasefire in the region. The U.S. military is on high alert as the ceasefire in the Middle East conflict appears fragile. The Pentagon has confirmed that China has assured the U.S. that it will not supply weapons to Iran during this period of calm. This comes as Washington tightens its blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway that connects the Persian Gulf to the open sea. The blockade, which has been in place since the U.S. withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, in 2018, is designed to limit Iran's ability to import oil and other resources. The U.S. has been pressing Iran to agree to a broader peace deal brokered by Pakistan, but so far, Tehran has refused to negotiate. The U.S. military is warning that American forces in the region are ready to resume combat operations if negotiations fail. General Dan King, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stated that the U.S. military remains postured and ready to restart large-scale operations should Iran reject a deal. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical choke point for global energy supplies, with over 20% of the world's oil passing through it. A blockade of the strait could trigger a global energy collapse, with prices skyrocketing and economies around the world at risk. The U.S. has significant interests in the region, and a conflict with Iran could have far-reaching consequences for global stability and security. The situation remains volatile, with both sides dug in and refusing to back down. As the world watches global tensions escalate, China's economic growth is defying expectations, with a surprising rebound in the latest quarterly data. China's economy has defied expectations, growing 5% in the first 3 months of the year despite global disruptions caused by the U.S.-Israel war with Iran. The country's GDP, as measured by the State Administration of Statistics, rose from the same period last year, beating economists' forecasts of a 4.8% growth rate. The rebound is largely attributed to a strong manufacturing sector, which saw a notable increase in car and other exports. The data suggests that China's economy is recovering from a weaker expansion of 4.5% in the previous quarter. However, the world's second-largest economy remains weighed down by declining property investment and a shrinking population. The Chinese government had announced a new economic target last month, cutting its annual growth goal to 4.5 to 5%, the lowest expansion target since 1991. The Iran war has had a significant impact on global energy supplies, with Asian countries particularly affected. The conflict, which began on February 28th, has disrupted trade and caused energy shortages in several countries. China is not immune to these effects, facing an energy crunch and global trade tensions. The U.S. has imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, including a 10% tariff on most of China's imports. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has indicated that these levies may be restored by July, depending on the outcome of a Supreme Court ruling on Trump's tariffs policies. The implications of this are significant, as they could further impact China's economy and global trade dynamics. In that, we'll leave you for now. Thank you for watching. I'm your name, and this is your channel. If you're looking for breaking news, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We'll keep you updated on the latest developments from around the world. Until next time, we bid you farewell.